Good day to everybody. Thank you so much for being a part of this webinar. We're looking forward to being with you over the next couple of days. But specifically, I want you to just pay attention and focus on just looking at checking your compass. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to go through some principles, and I would hope that it would kind of grab your attention and be able to help you be able to self-evaluate and look at yourself and look at your team, and to be able to, oh man, maybe I can shift a couple of degrees, or maybe I can shift my attitude. And before I get into it, I just want to give you a little bit about myself. My name's Jeorge Holmes, and I've had some experience in this non-for-profit world, some 35 years of experience helping people kind of navigate, whether it's in ministry or whether it's in church life or whether it's non-for-profits that have a specific cause. I've also done a little bit more than 15 years of work in the business sector as a business owner and entrepreneur. And that's been an incredible experience too. Even at times, valleys that I never planned on, but had to try to navigate and weather myself, along with some great success stories that I'm just so thankful for. And then also I've been able to work with individuals and those within a team of an organization just to be a transformational coach. It may be working through transitions, it may be working with specific relationships or personalities, and then also being able to look at some of the things to where you can kind of plant seeds and be able to see a vision unfold in that specific organization, or at least in that business's life and organization. And also I've been a professional vocalist for 40 years. Now I'm not going to sing for you today, okay? That's not what this is about, but sure enough I get out there and have a great time being able to just be able to use one of the gifts that I've been given, and so thankful. And one of the best things that I've been able to experience is 36 years being happily married. And for all the guys that have experienced that, I would hope that you'd be able to say like me, hey, I married up. And I'm very, very thankful and humbled for the partner and spouse that I've had for 36 years. Now, something that I do in the midst of this is something called Compass Coach University, or CompassCoachU.com. And I work in helping people find their true north, or a business find their true north. And I usually work on helping people find where they are presently in their reality, what they're facing right now, and then also looking backwards and saying, okay, where have you been and what can you learn from history? And then being able to paint a picture that's moving them forward and looking into a visionary lens and being able to chart a course to help them out. Now, if that's something that you're interested in, fantastic. You can connect with James Feldman, a good friend here, and then also myself, and just make a connection and see if that works out for you. Now, in this presentation, I want you to understand that there's two pathways that are very important, all right? And always know it's always your choice. It's very important that in our culture, we still take responsibility for our choices that we make. Now, I'm going to have a little fun. I don't know if you've ever rode a motorcycle, or if I've never, maybe I haven't really rode a motorcycle in my life. My sons rode motorcycles. I've known people that have done it. But you can picture yourself on a motorcycle, or maybe in a low ride, right? A low rider. Now, if you're in a webinar right now, right? You may be seated, you may be in your office, you may be in your cubicle. Stand up just for a moment. I just need a little energy. Okay, kind of just move a little bit, all right? Come on now, give it a try. Can you do it in rhythm? Oh man, my wife loves this song. And she goes, George, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. I said, all right, I'll do it. But this is gonna help you now. Think about it. I need a little energy for the next few minutes, man. All right, and we're gonna make it happen. And we're gonna make some choices in this, and I hope that you can find that golden nugget, all right? Now I gotta turn it off, all right? I'm sorry, my goodness. I turned it off probably too soon, but it's a great song. And the group was called War, and a fantastic song to just kind of get into the groove. I want you to think about getting into the groove, into your zone, all right? Now, Teddy Roosevelt, president at our time in this century, 1910, delivered a message that was unforgettable. And I want to grab just a couple of nuggets in that, because it's going to help us get in that groove and think about potentially choices that we're making that are going to make us better. He said this: it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. who errs, in other words, who makes mistakes, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, and now listen to this, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. I want you to grab onto that daring greatly. Two words that are very important in the midst of your own life, in the midst of your business, in the midst of your non-for-profit, in the midst of your church, wherever you may be fitting in your organization or your work, even if you're sitting at home and this is where you get it done, right? I want you to think about this phrase. Have you heard this before? It is what it is. It is what it is. I put the picture up of the classic Winnie Pooh character Eeyore, right? Eeyore, at times, I have found myself being like Eeyore. Now, he always would come in real slow and almost like being able to say, we're never going to make it, right? We're never going to make it. It's never going to work, right? It's very similar to the phrase, it is what it is. It is what it is an expression used when a person believes something cannot be changed and then must just be accepted. And it's a resigned acceptance of an unchangeable situation. And I want to challenge that. I'm not saying that's always a bad value, but it's a choice that we make when we release something, but at times we release too early. And I want you to do an exercise for me in the next few minutes. I want you to grab your pen. I know you got a pad of paper, and I want you to do this exercise just in your mind, just to be able to state, hey, this is where I land in this. And it's an exercise on the scale of 0 to 5. If you are a person that consistently is saying it is what it is what it is, you score yourself. And if you're a 0, yes, that is me, right? If you're a 5, you may be totally on the opposite end of which you're going to really, I think, enjoy the rest of this webinar, but score yourself just in the next few moments. Am I a 0? Am I 1? I talked to my wife about this, and we mentioned it to each other, and she said, I'm probably about a 2. I'm probably about a 2. I kind of need direction, and I'm not a go-get-em kind of a person, and I need some help at times in that with visionary people. And I scored myself, and I'm like, I'm a little bit more like maybe a 5. This doesn't really appeal to me that much, and I'm not as resigned to just leave things as are. You may be like me, you may be like my wife, but I'm telling you, it's an important exercise. The second exercise, do this real quick. Have you ever heard the expression, oh, you're a person that always sees the glass half empty, right? In other words, at times you're just a very negative person. At times, it is what it is can be unbelievably negative in a brainstorming session. And in this exercise, just take a minute and say, now, am I a little bit more like a person, 0 to 5? I see the glass half empty all the time. Well, then you're leaning towards a 0, right? But if you always see it half full, you're leaning towards a 5. Now just score yourself in those two areas, because it's important for us to be able to let you know that there's a principle in business and in churches and wherever you find yourself, is that, remember, good employees, for the most part, don't leave organizations. They leave bad leaders. They leave bad managers. People don't leave bad jobs. For the most part, they leave bad bosses, because at times it is what it is, tends to be even ingrained in the leadership, and nothing changes, and the person has no goals. They are setting out no outcomes. They're having no evaluations, and they're feeling as though they're being devalued. Be very, very challenged in your own life when you find yourself stuck in the it is what it is. Because the two choices are, it is what it is, or it is what, cross out it is, and put in, it is what you make it. It is what you make it. I think way back growing up, and an incredible cartoon character was this guy. All right, and I think I was even trying to pump iron, right, and get my biceps and so on and so forth a little bit bigger. But I'd watch Popeye and Olive Oil and Brutus and all of these characters, and sure enough, when Popeye was facing a challenge and he wasn't going to leave it, it is what it is. And when his girlfriend Olive Oil was getting picked on, oh my goodness, man, what did he pop out? It was that can of spinach. and he said, I'm going to change this situation, right? He shifted his entire attitude and disposition and said, that's all I can stand. Can you say that? That's all I can stand. And I can't stand no more, right? Maybe you're in your life right now. Maybe you're in your business and you're saying like Popeye, maybe you're not going fully public, or maybe you're like with your two fists up, I can't stand no more. Something's got to shift. Then you got to listen to the next few minutes, because really it's your call. It's your time. It's your choice. It is what you make it. Now, an incredible movie came out. It was the third version called A Star is Born. And if you haven't seen that movie, Lady Gaga and Brad Cooper, oh my goodness, they did a fantastic job. But interesting enough, both of them in their lives were really in the mindset of it is what it is. She was kind of in a dead-end job. She was a waitress, but an incredible songwriter. And then she was a vocalist, and she would be playing these kind of small little events and little small bars and so on and so forth, and not really happy with her life. And then Brad Cooper, well, he was, my goodness, he was a country rock star, right? And he was packing concert halls, but he was just riddled with addictions and unhappiness. And sure enough, these two collided and met in an incredible experience to where suddenly they were talking about music, and they were talking about performing, and they were talking about composing, and they were talking about writing, and then they were falling in love. And in the song, this is called Shallow. Brad Cooper in the movie challenges Lady Gaga to come, and he flies her to one of his concerts and says, I'm going to do the song that you wrote, and I want you to sing it with me. Now, she comes right up to the platform, and she's backstage, and she's like freaking out, right? And he starts playing the song, and he's encouraging her. And then suddenly, when she is ready to come on out, she steps out. It's her time. Think about it now. It is what you make it versus it is what it is. She could have stayed right there. Brad Cooper, that little boyfriend in that rock country, didn't need her, but he said, it is what you make it. And in that song, it says, tell me something, girl. Are you happy in this modern world? Or do you need more? Is there something else you're searching for, right? Oh, that's an it is what you make it composer and writer. And then she starts singing, tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired trying to fill that void? Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore? And then shallow meant we're going to have to change some things. We're going to have to go into the deep end of our lives to be able to see results that are different than what we're experiencing right now. Oh, it's an incredible movie. And there's the two principles. It is what it is, and it is what you make it. Now, I want you to focus on it is what it is, and it is what you make it, and think, oh man, where do I fit in on this specific, kind of pulse and compass in my life? Henry Ford, this is what Henry Ford stated. And if you ever read about Henry Ford, this is before automobiles were really taken off. And everybody was used to carriages. Everybody was used to horses. Everybody had a certain amount of horsepower. If their horses were a little faster, they went a little faster. They even had on those carriages shock absorbers, sort of make it a little more comfortable and so on. But Henry Ford said, oh no, we're going to make a motor. And we're going to make this automobile, and we're going to put four wheels on it, and then it's going to ride, and it's going to be able to propel a little bit faster and get people to a destination faster. And people thought he was nuts, right? They, for the most part, saying to him, it is what it is, Henry Ford, get over it. And he said this, just quoted, don't find fault, find a remedy, right? Find a remedy. Anyone can complain. Can you imagine how many people were complaining and saying it's never going to work, it's never going to work, it's never going to work? Even at times in our own lives, we can be our own worst enemy. We can be saying that to ourselves. Now, Audrey Hepburn, if you don't remember her, she was one of the most famous actresses in Hollywood. And she stated this, nothing is impossible. And the word itself says, I'm possible. So I want you to kind of peel that back and say, wait a minute, okay, maybe I've been selling myself short on my team. Maybe I've been selling this business short. Maybe there are some deeper things I can do and decisions I can make that can move me forward in my life, in my business, and whatever I may be doing. Now, here's a couple of before and after stories that I want you to see the picture, right? This first one is a couple. This couple is amazing. In the before, they're amazing. Happily married together, they're rocking. But you know what? They said, some things need to shift because our health isn't as strong. We're having diabetes, we're having high blood pressure, we're dealing with things that are not that good for us, and we're going to try something together. Maybe you need somebody to do something together with. And look at the after. Oh my goodness. Blood pressure's fine, no more diabetes, incredible diet, more energy, and you know what? Those are decisions that they're making because they said it is what we make it. Here's another one. My wife and I did some landscaping during the COVID, and it was pretty amazing because we looked outside and thought, well, it isn't that bad, right? It's not that really serious and so on. But sure enough, I said, those two larger bushes got to go, and I had to get a pickup truck, and I had to put a chain on those two, bushes and yank them out of the ground. And then we planted all of these perennials. We planted some bushes, and it made the front of our little house a little cooler looking. And my wife was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you did this, and I helped you, and we did this. Look at the before and the after. The before, it doesn't say that it's all bad. It just means usually you have a picture of something of what you'd like to do, and then you have to step into action. It is what you make it. This is the other, out of Restaurant Impossible. I love that movie and that series. This is the before with the restaurant that was going out of business, couldn't get clients, menu was off, and it didn't look really appealing because it'd been the same for almost 30 years. And they went in for 3 days, and sure enough, Andy's, I'll tell you, the owner was blown away. If you've ever seen those programs, they walk into the remodel and go, you've got to be kidding me, right? It's like, what? I never even could have imagined. But see, he took them through the process, changing the menu, changing the design, changing the layout, and even working with them and changing their attitude, and said, it is what you make it. Here's another one. If you're interested in kitchen remodeling, right? Here's a before. My wife and I would love that kitchen. My goodness, it's really beautiful. It's not really a big deal, but a couple that did this said, we want something different because we've had this for 20 years. And sure enough, somebody sat down with them and said, take a look at this. And they moved the refrigerator, and they put in a beautiful window, and then it's a beautiful space, and the color is different. Wow, right? Here's another before and after in a bathroom, right? Just giving you some ideas here in your mind to be able to say, wait a minute, are you living in it is what it is, or it is what you make it? This is the before bathroom, and this is the after. And they simply said, I'm tired of splashing around in a bathtub, and I don't like baths. I want a shower, and I want a shower to where I can sit down in it. And boom, it's a change that's worth it in every way. Now, here's another one that's really radical, right? You take a house, and here it is, a 2-story, looks pretty plain in that specific, area of which they lived, and they said, well, we want to do this, and suddenly it's a wraparound porch, and then they got an addition on their garage. And I'm not saying that this doesn't cost money. I'm just saying that they were willing to say, this is what it is right now, and this is what we want to make it. Now, 3 top contenders in tennis world are Roger Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. Now, these 3 guys have won 20 and 19 and 17 Grand Slams, the top 3 players in the world right now. Do you think they had a mindset that said, oh, it is what it is, or it is what I make it? Every time I've seen them place, and of course my favorite is Roger Federer, even though I have tremendous respect for these guys. Unbelievable. But their coaches sit with them. Their coaches videotape them. Their coaches counsel them. Their coaches are looking over their entire life and saying these things need to be improved on if you want to play and continue to play at this level. Each one of us have to at times submit to the same thing. Who is it in your life that can press into your life, that can challenge you, that you can be encouraged by, that they can applaud you when you do fantastic and when you step out and do something different? It's so important to have these 3 guys have the top coaches in the entire industry working with them day in and day out. It's important. So often we think we ought to go it alone, but we need some folks around us to be able to speak into our lives. Oprah Winfrey, she said this: step out of the history that is holding you back. At times the history is, it is what it is. This is how I was raised. This is what I've been into. This is my cubicle. This is what I do. I'm never going to move forward, and so on and so forth, right? And then she says, step into the new story you are willing to create. In other words, it is what you make it. And Oprah has story after story after story of rejection, rejection, and rejection, and failure, and failure, and failure, and stepping up and being a part of something that was incredible in her life. Now, which one are you? At times, I find myself in a fishbowl with a bunch of fish. And you see that one on the left's going, oh my gosh, the fish jumped completely out of the fishbowl and is all alone. But he said, or she said, enough is enough. I can't stay stuck in it is what it is. And you find a new fishbowl. And then that fish, maybe you're like that fish, jumped in and said, I got to find a new pool with different fish that have a different mindset. You got to think about, which one are you? Are you willing to separate from those that are, it is what it is all the time, and negative, and are putting down people and devaluing people and not even sensing their own importance? Or do you want to be with a group that says, wow, we're going to make a difference? Now, we're in this right now. The coronavirus over the last few months has absolutely radically changed our world. There's a before and an after, right? And I'm telling you, I'm really, really challenging myself to be strong through COVID-19 and the coronavirus, but also to be better after the coronavirus. I'm trying to walk in, it is what you make it. But I want to give an example. All the scientists, all the doctors, when COVID hit, I don't think there was any scientist that said, it is what it is. Just let it go. Whatever happens, happens. We can't do anything. Don't worry about it. None of them were stating that. They were instantly moved into what? Problem solving. They're looking at identifying the problem. They're looking at defining the problem. They're looking at exploring, what are we going to do to kill this? What are we going to do to find this vaccine? What are we going to do to treat people? How many hospital beds are going to be used? How many intensive care units need ventilators? Boom, boom, boom. They were making decisions to save lives. They identified the problem, they defined it, they explored it, and they took action. One of the things that is so tough in the word ideal is the A, of taking action. You've got to make a decision, and at times you're going to be wrong. They haven't done everything perfect in the industry of the medical field with COVID virus. Mask or no mask, mask or no mask. It doesn't matter. They're doing something that takes action and is trying to have the best welfare for every person on the planet. And then finally they're able to look back. The L is looking back. In other words, that's evaluation, that's feedback, that's statistics. That's saying, where are we standing right now? Are we making a difference? Are we winning in this war, or are we losing? See, this is so crucial in our lives personally, and in our business, and in our ministry, in whatever non-for-profit we're trying to lead, because you matter. See, it's so important to ask questions. You've got to be able to ask questions and fire them off. Didn't the scientists say, where did this come from? What's going on? Where did it come from? And so on. Why did it happen? I'm like, who did it? It's like, and who cares if somebody thinks it's a conspiracy? I don't really care. I'm just simply saying they're asking the questions that are important. What are we going to do about this? How are we going to handle this? When are we going to know things? Which way are we going to go? And whom shall we call to make this happen? Everything has happened in that specific arena, and we're still facing it, folks. We're not through it all. We're still facing, in the United States, many shut down. Across the world, still lives are being lost. So we're in this, and it's hot right now. And so I want you to think about it. Be careful of, it is what it is, versus it is what you make it. Tony Robbins is quoted this way. He says, there is no such thing as failure. There are only results. And I'm simply telling you, and I challenge Tony and talk to say, that's exactly right. But I'm telling you, there are results that can be measured and say, wait a minute, we failed in this specific area. Now, we may not use that word failure, but we're going to make some adjustments. We're going to flex. We're going to adjust, flex, and shift. Jim does an incredible job, throughout his career of just blessing so many organizations simply because of the mindset of saying, we got to come up with some different ideas. We got to think differently. We got to think outside and inside the box. We got to do this shift happens, man, or else you're going to close. And see, this is really, really important for those that are a part of this webinar. You made a decision to be a part of this webinar and to invest and to be able to say, I need some resources to help me. This expression tells me that you're not making excuses. Excuses are useless. Results are priceless. It's incredible to know that you've got to have a vision for your life, right? You got to move out of whatever you may be in. And it may be dark. It may be a tough chapter. It may be even saying, I've done all that I can. I can't stand no more. And you got to move forward and close. I can't always see exactly what's around the corner, but I certainly want to ask all the questions so that there's no regrets in the vision that you're casting for your life. Now, I want to give you 3 principles. Number 1, you got to be able to value people, and people includes you. Includes you. Now, in your sector, in your team, in your business, in your non-for-profit, wherever you may be, there's 4 words I want you to notice. And Craig Groeschel gave this to us in a leadership conference. And he said, I notice you matter. Now, as leaders, and he was speaking to leaders, he's saying, it is like a sin to go about your day and think nothing's being noticed by your team, by you. He's saying that just can't happen. You got to be aware and be able to state, hey, I noticed the work that you did. How cool, man, I couldn't have done it without you. I'm telling you, I'm so thankful you were part of that meeting in that moment because I was drawing blanks and you started firing bullets and it was fantastic, right? I noticed. And then another statement of value is you matter. I tell you what, I need to hear that. I think my wife likes to hear that from me. 36 years of marriage, and I'm still telling her, I love you, honey. I'm so thankful you're in my life, and I'm so thankful and humbled that you walk with me and you talk with me and you listen and then you help guide me and bring some things that maybe I don't see as much or as clearly as you see. I notice you. You matter. Now, right now, I want you to jot down on that pad of paper. Take that pen right now, and you make a list who you can value right now in your family. Right now in your family. If you got 1 sibling or 10, pick 2, pick 1, pick somebody, right? If it's your mom and dad that are still with you, or if it's your grandma or grandpa, whoever it may be, pick a family member, and then pick a friend. Pick 1 or 2 friends. And then pick a coworker that you work with all the time. Maybe it's 9 to 5 or it's 8 to 6 p.m. and you're doing like, wow, you're doing overtime together. Write a note. Text. Even a letter that you write. An email. Or give them a call. Or say, hey, I want to take you out to coffee. And they don't even know why. And you sit down and you have a cup of coffee with them and you say, I just want to let you know, man. You made a huge difference in my life. And I don't want you to miss this opportunity, and I don't want you to kind of move away from this for a moment of just me valuing you. You gotta value you and your team you serve and you lead. Write down, and I hope that you follow through. There's the action step. You gotta follow through. Make the call, make the email, write the text, get it done. Now, the second value is you gotta inspire people. Inspiring is a little different than motivating people. Motivating has a tendency to push out of them something that's really valuable in their life. You're pushing as a coach, a football coach. You're telling those guys, the front line, to hit harder, to hit harder, to hit harder, right? And you're working them in such a way to where you're preparing them for the 4th quarter. And they thank you when they win, right? Inspiring is a little different. Inspiring is what you got to pull out of them. Sometimes people have values inside. They have certain core things that they believe, and there's gifts and there's talents, and a leader and a person that sees that has to be able to draw that and pull that out of them. Challenge yourself to inspire people wherever you may be serving, on the bottom or the top. You've got to be able to inspire yourself at times when people aren't inspiring you, maybe when the boss isn't, or the CEO doesn't even know who you are, and so on and so forth. So what? Value yourself and value others. And I challenge you now in this, be at your best at work. And what do I mean by that? Before you arrive. Before you arrive, you gotta be at your best, right? You're getting out of the car, you're at your parking spot, you're tearing it in, maybe you got your mask on and so on, you're saying hello, you're ready for the day. Be at your best before you arrive, when you arrive, while you're at work. Oh, try to maintain that it is what you make it attitude, and then be able to say, hey, not only while I'm at work, but when you leave work. Leave strong. Leave encouraged. Leave inspiring others so that you can prepare again for the next day no matter what problems you face. It's a challenge, but it's a choice. It's always your choice. And then the third point is a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. He said, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. And this talks about empowering people. So often in leadership, so often in our lives, we tend to have the mindset, I'm the only one that's going to do this. I'm the only one that can get this done right. I'm the only one that should be in control of everything, right? And I'm going, that's wrong. You got to be willing to empower folks. And I got to tell you, let's face this, all right? There's 4 letters in the word face, F-A-C-E. And the first one is fear. It grips all of us at times. What makes you fearful, scared, insecure, overwhelmed? Take time to face the fear and seek to overcome it. You've got to face it. You got to own it. You got to name it. And then you got to be able to overcome it at some level. And so often, empowering people is a fear of leaders. They feel threatened. They feel as though they're losing their authority. They're feeling as though they're losing their decision making. And I'm telling you, when you release those things and you let people be empowered, you are actually the leader that's making the difference in their life and letting them loose. Don't let fear lock you in. It is what it is. It's never going to change. I'm going to make these decisions. This is the way it's going down. And don't anybody get in my spot. A is for attachments. All of us have them. Are there any unhealthy attachments? Identify them and work on letting them go, right? You got to. Unhealthy attachments are a detriment to any person personally, and then sure enough, it shows up in their relationships, it shows up in their workplace, it shows up in their family, and we know that scientifically, it certainly works through an entire generation. Suddenly, the whole dysfunctional pattern transfers from me to my kids. So you got to face it. F, face the fears. Second, attachments. You got to identify them and own those and get rid of them. Third, be careful of this one, control. What are you controlling that isn't under your control ultimately? Learn to empower and trust the process and the people. You've got to be able to empower, or else your organization is never going to grow. It's just going to be about you. This is the classic John Maxwell, the law of the lid, right? Are you the lid on your company? Are you the lid in your marriage? Are you the lid, actually, your own worst nightmare and enemy, and you're always saying, well, I'm never going to be able to change. It is what it is. Get over it. And I'm going, that's a control issue. You got to be able to release that and empower people and trust the process and those that are on your team. And then finally, this guy looks really angry to his face, right? Entitlement is nuts in our culture. It's nuts in our world. People expecting everything for nothing, right? Do you deserve everything for nothing and feel entitled? Do you know how many CEOs are like that? Do you know how many of those that are pastors that are like that? and they're not willing to do certain things, and they're not going to do this, and that's what we hire this person for. And I'm not saying that they're not wanting to be responsible. I'm just saying that at times they feel entitled. Watch out, I say. Watch out. This one will bite you big time. You've got to be careful about fear taking over, attachments that are unhealthy, control that is out of control, and certainly entitlement. These things you've got to face as an individual because you're moving towards it is what you make it. Simon Sinek said it this way: leadership is about empowering others to achieve things they did not think possible. Are you that kind of a person? See, if you're always saying it is what it is what it is, and you're not willing to say, hey, I want to talk to you a little bit about it is what you make it. What do you want to accomplish in this company? What are some of your goals? What's your end in mind? What would you like to see happen? Oh, see, now suddenly creativity, innovation begins to break loose. John Maxwell said it incredibly, and this is challenging to me, all right? If you wouldn't follow yourself, why should anyone else? If you wouldn't follow yourself, why should anyone else? Such a challenge. I'm wanting us to be able to not only climb mountains alone, right? But we want to climb mountains and take people with us. And that's a mark of leadership. That's a mark of somebody that says, oh, it is what I make it, and it is what we make it. Now, you got to make the choice. It is what it is, or it is what you make it. And I'm wanting to encourage you now, there's two paths. It's always your choice. And so I'm challenging you in this little webinar, in this little time together, choose wisely. Make it count. Step out. Be willing to try something different. And don't see it as fully a failure, but see it as a time where you can evaluate. You can flex, you can adjust, you can shift it so that it begins to work for your good, for your life, for your business, for whatever your heart and passion is. I want to thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your life during this time. And my goodness, I hope that you follow up in all the resources that we're going to be providing. And thank you so much for just, again, allowing me to speak into your life, and love to hear from you. So thank you so much. Wait a minute. Are you clapping because I stopped? Oh, man.